Welcome to the very first episode of season 4 of the Flag Stays Down podcast. Parker, you and I were just talking a couple weeks ago about did you ever think that we would make it to a fourth season with this? And oh man, what a whirlwind 4 seasons it's been, or 3 seasons going into the fourth year. Hopefully this is a calm season. But welcome back, everyone. We're missing Matt tonight. He's feeling a little ill. But you got me, Andy, and we got Parker. Parker, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I don't know if you can call this episode one fully just because it's preseason edition, right? It's still like learning curve edition and vibes edition and reactions edition. So no, it's good to get back. It's good to watch the boys play again. It's a very much different looking Chelsea than what we're used to for a lot of reasons, right? Like seeing basically 22 players play on the 2 games we've played, and just seeing a lot of new faces, a lot of faces we haven't seen in a while, whether that's West Fofana coming back from injury or Marc Guiu, new signings, new faces. So I don't know, man. It feels like it's been a long time since we've done this, and in reality it's not. So it's good to be back. I'm happy. How's the summer treated you so far?
Man, it has been busy, busy, we'll say. Um, you know, my son Aiden's finally at the point where he's doing extracurriculars, and so we've been running all over the goddamn place. But man, it's like 2 straight years where I get to see Chelsea Football Club play in person. Got back from that yesterday. Had a chance to decompress, kind of think about what I saw and put it all into context. And at the end of the day, it's special. I know that you've had the chance to go to London and see Chelsea in person there. Um, I've only got to see them in preseason live, but even that is special. And getting to share that with my son is something that both him and I will remember forever. So it's if summer ended today, I'd be just fine.
Puts it in perspective though, man, because you and I both won't have a ton of opportunities. Neither of us will be season ticket holders getting to see 10, 15 matches a season. Like, it's never going to happen for us. So every time we get to see our team play, whether it's preseason, whether it's in the Champions League, whether it's regular season away, whatever, it's special. It's cool. It's a team that we've been following for a long time, and you don't get those opportunities every day. So I'm happy you got to go. I'm happy you got to make an event about it and share it with your son, which is really cool.
Yeah, and my so Aiden got to see me shed a tear for probably the first time in his life last year, when I got to see Chelsea for the very first time. Brought to tears there at Soldier Field. Um, I saw him cry in regards to sports for the first time probably ever, supporting sports, yesterday. And Kunku scored, and he was literally sobbing because he was so happy. Um, they, if he ever listens to this, he's gonna be mad I told that story. But that was special for me as a dad. I was fucking worried he had hurt himself or something had happened, but no, he told me he was just so happy that he got to see Nkunku score. So that was again, like you said, puts it all in perspective.
Amen to that, dude. I love it.
Well, we did have some, like you said, new faces. Uh, we haven't seen all of the new faces yet. Dewsbury Hall recovering from injury. Caleb Wiley not yet with the club. I think he's being loaned out to. Omari Kellyman still back in England, but we have seen a couple new signings. Tosin, still not going to try to pronounce his last name. We'll call him Tosin. Marc Guiu and Renato Veiga. So I'm curious. All of them are pretty low price tag. Viega being the highest at about 12 million pounds, Tosin on a free, and Gu at 5 million. What do you make out of those three? Seeing them twice already this year.
It's funny that you put the price tags behind their names because I didn't know what each of them cost. I knew Toaston came on a free. I heard that. But if you kind of gave me the three price tags, I would have thought that Marc Guiu was the highest price tag player of the three there. I love his work rate. I thought he was everywhere. I love that he like puts in tackles and gets up right away. He did that a couple of times in the Wrexham match and in the Celtic match where he goes down, but he gets up real quick and he tries to not sell a foul. He just looks to hustle and try to make something happen, excuse me. And one thing I read, I didn't catch this live, but one thing I saw was Noni Madueke had an effort in the Celtic match and missed it wide or missed it by a margin. And Guiu comes up to him and kind of encourages him, right? And tries to pick up his spirits a little bit. So those are the types of dudes that you want to see. Tosin, a little early to kind of evaluate him. And when you're evaluating a back line, it's kind of as a unit. You have to sort of evaluate it. Our back line as a unit was bad, especially against Celtic. But in both matches, it was our weak point. It wasn't our strong area. We lost possession in the midfield far too often, and then when people kind of came at us, we were not organized and got beat too early or too easily. So hard to evaluate him. And then I didn't see much of. Sorry, the third guy is Viega.
Renato. Yep.
Yeah, he came out late in the Celtic match, so only a few minutes of evaluation there. So not much to make of him so far, but yeah, good to see some new faces. And then, like I said, Fofana's back, Santos is back, Angelo's, in the mix. So some new old faces that we haven't gotten a chance to like fully evaluate either too.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the price tags and how it seems like they would be off, right? I've actually been pretty impressed with Tosin just watching him individually. I would think that he would be the higher. And again, these numbers are all pretty low for what we're used to at Chelsea, but yeah, I would think he would be the highest. I wish against Celtic that we had some decent balls into the box, that we had some better run set pieces. And I know we have a new set piece coach, but I didn't find that as being evident. The low corners, kind of weird trick plays. And I know it's preseason, but the dude's what, 6'4"? Get the ball up to him and let him do his thing. Goo, man, if you would tell me, or if I didn't know and you would tell me, hey, this guy's 18, would not have believed it at all. He does a little bit of everything, and it's his finishing needs some work, and I'll acknowledge that. And that's not always the best quality in a striker, but he's 18, so like he's got time there. But excellent in hold up play. He's an excellent distributor. Runs the channels, breaks lines, and ultimately he's just a dog. He works and works and works and works and works. And like what you said when Noni missed the shot pretty terribly towards the Chelsea supporters, which was even worse. I thought maybe Noni was injured because Marc sprinted over there, literally sprinted over there to help him up. I had never seen that before at that level, and it was pretty cool to see. Well, like once I understood what was going on, big fan of that. I honestly think this is probably the end for Armando Broja. Nico Jackson is very clearly your starting number 9. Gu, I think, offer Guiu, or I don't know. We'll figure out something for him. But his work rate is exactly, I can't remember with who I said it with. Oh, with Conor Gallagher. He's got the Conor Gallagher work rate. He will fit in nicely at the end of a match being subbed on. And at 18, only big things come from him. But yes, Renato, to be determined. I'm going to switch topic real quick, unless you got any follow-ups on the new signings. Because Renato at left back, we only saw him for a couple minutes, and against Celtic, we had Levi Colwell pretty much play the entirety of the match at left back. So that meant Reece James, Malo Gusto, fall into the Enzo Maresca inverted wingback role. Defensively had its drawbacks, we'll say. But what do you know, just looking at these two matches kind of in a vacuum, what do you make of that inverted wingback system? What do you make of the guys who are being plugged in there?
Yeah, I think Reese has the ability to be scary in that role. Like he has every technical ability in that position to just destroy teams. And like we can overload and just run shit. It leaves us more exposed defensively, obviously, right? So figuring out the intricacies, I think it's going to be ugly until it looks pretty or it looks serviceable. Like preseason's not the place to judge that. And playing against City week one isn't going to be the place to judge that either. It's gonna take some time to figure it out. But like this team isn't foreign to the concept. You know, the guy that played it for us was Cucurella, and Cucurella hasn't traveled with us. So we've done this before with a lot of success. So this is part of like everyone's calling it part of Enzo's system. It's also part of Pacha's system too. So it's a pivot we made with 7 games left, and it worked well for us. So do I think it's something that we can implement? Absolutely. Do I think we've got like 3 very solid candidates to do it? Absolutely. I'm curious if that shifts throughout matches. Whereas, like, does Reese play it sometimes and Cucurella play it sometimes? Or let's say Gusto and James are in at the same time. Do they switch off? I don't know. Is it more of a designated position? Like I don't know how that works. My guess is that Chelsea will be free form and free flowing enough where it will be kind of on the fly, or at least maybe 80-20, where one player plays it 80% of the time and 20% someone else due to circumstances or situation things. I think it fits us well. We just have to be on the same page defensively, which we very much were not. But one thing I saw more than I have in the past was like I saw Mudryk back more. I saw Sterling back more. I still don't see Noni back as much as I would like to see him, but I saw Guiu back a lot. Like there were times where he was in the box defensively. So I see
You,
players come back more. So that's kind of cool.
it's like Gu is almost in that like Harry Kane role, like almost coming back to like a number 8, which was trippy.
Which we saw how well that worked for England. Speaking of, that was probably the highlight of my summer was getting to see an England match in England, semifinal of the Euros. One that they actually won too. That it wasn't the losing finale. So I saw the last win of that tournament, which was very fun to experience in a London pub.
Yeah, how do you keep going to England and seeing the team win when you're over there?
I don't know, man. I'm gonna knock on wood like a fucking idiot because I don't want to jinx myself. But saw England win, and then I haven't seen Chelsea lose either. So they can.
Convince the wife to switch nationalities here.
You know, it's funny. I ended up in Colorado. Carolyn wanted to move to Arizona. I wanted to move to London. So we compromised in Colorado.
Close enough, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, going back to the inverted wingers, I man, it I have to keep reminding myself, and I was telling you this pre-pod, that we are missing a good chunk of starters on this team. And for once, it's not injury, knock on wood. Uh, Cucurella would fit perfectly in this role, slotting in as a third midfielder or third kind of deeper level midfield. Um, Not a fan of Reece James and Malagusto doing it. And here's my reasoning. And I didn't get a chance to watch the entirety of the Wrexham game. Um, so this is solely based off what I saw against Celtic. But our wingers tend to want to cut inside. And if you have, for example, in the Celtic match, Noni Madueke on the right hand side, ball's being played to him. He wants to cut inside. Reece James or Malagusto as your right back, they're already cut inside as the inverted winger. where's your depth, or like where's your width? You become too narrow, um, too compact. You allow a team that not necessarily to form a low block, but there's not a whole lot of spread the defense going on. There has to be an overlap, and so it's either the winger has to stay wide or the wing back has to stay wide. And Noni, we've seen Noni over the last 2 seasons. He's going to want to cut in. If he is your starting right back, he is going to want to cut it. Cole Palmer is going to want to cut in. So you need Reece James or Malagusto to go wide, draw a defender out, so that the opposing team isn't loading up your box there. Now, this is where I think Cucurella fits in well. Cucurella doesn't usually overlap anyways, right? And Mudryk doesn't like to cut in. Mudryk will go around you. That left-hand side is prime for the inverted back. I would like to see in the next couple matches Renato Veiga and see if he can. Apparently, from everything I've read, I haven't seen a ton of him at Basel, but from everything I've read, played an inverted winger role or a left center back role with Basel. So I think he would fit right into that as well. So, is it is it slotting a square peg into a round hole here with the right back, or is it just lack of people available? It's preseason, who knows? But
right, and like the team looks different with Enzo playing and with Caicedo playing too, right?
And I think that fixes a lot of the leaky defense issues. Because I was looking back at the lineup, and we all said in the group chat before the match that it looked like a pretty strong lineup, especially for who we have available in the U.S. right now. But your two, I don't even know. I don't want to call them holding midfielders because I'm not sure if that's technically their role in this system. But your two midfielders behind Nkunku were Chukwuemeka and Lavia. Lavia barely played last year due to injury, and Chukwuemeka was typically in what was Nkunku's role. So there was no assistance for the back line there. I think you're going to see a much different defensive approach and a lot more solid defensive approach once you get Caicedo back, once you get Enzo back, once you get Cucurella back. Once you get all the pieces in place, then I think we can actually judge how this system's working.
Exactly. And like the thing I'm waiting on to see if like Reece James can play this role is I know Reece James can put a ball on a dime, cross pitch wherever he wants. We didn't see almost any of that in this system. And like watching Enzo play last year, I know he pulled the strings a lot and did a lot of distribution from that 6 role. And if you get like him sort of next to James with Caicedo sunk a little deeper, I think the two of them can do that. Our accuracy on any pass greater than like 6 yards was horrible. Like horrible. We had so many like 1-2s go errant. We had so many long balls that just, I tweeted about it, but like Bayashil kicks a ball equally apart from 2 players that are about 20 yards apart. So he kicks it just perfectly 10 yards away from both people. And then he starts yelling at the team, like, where were you guys? It's like that pass was nowhere, man. What are you doing? But so our accuracy on that stuff was terrible. That's going to get better. It has to get better. And it gets better with the quality of players that we're not playing today. And it gets better with getting into midseason form. So I'm curious. I'm holding my judgment on if Reece James can play that because I think he's adaptive enough to be able to pull the strings from a holding from an inverted wing back position with everyone else around him firing. Cole's going to give you some more width than Noni is, but Noni does cut in, but that's cut in as much. Like he'll still run around you or run wide from midline to box on the opposing side. So I think he still gives you that width that you're looking for there. When you're in attack, he does like to come in on his left, obviously.
Yeah, and well, I mean, like you said, first you got to get the ball on a long ball, right? And we pounded that ball to Noni in the definitely in the second half. Um, not as much in the first, but still enough. The distribution out to that wing was terrible. At one point, Aiden turns to me. Keep in mind, Aiden's 10 and doesn't really understand tactics and any of that. It's like kick ball, shoot, right? Um, and he goes, "Why do we keep passing 50 yards over Noni's head?" Like they were basically kicking it to the stands at that point. And I don't know, maybe it's the heat. We we joke about how the British can't handle the heat and all that, but um, it was a hot day. The sun was out. Like Celtic were pressing, and who knows? But just could not find Noni, and I would have preferred in that first half. Maybe you find Mudrik with some of those, boot the ball, let the guy run. Especially because we found out after the match, Robert Sanchez was instructed to find the wingers on long balls because Celtic were in a man-to-man, and so it's easier to get by. I forgot Mudrik was on the pitch at times. So we'll get back to Sanchez in just a minute because I really want to talk about that. But there seems to be a lot of concern today uh, about Mudrik and his quote unquote checking out of games, being kind of a lost player out there. We're now 2 years in, year and a half, give or take in. Are we starting to worry about Mudrik?
I I'm not worried about him from what I saw. I don't think what we saw was his fault. Like, I don't think the team tried to get him involved any more than he tried to get involved with the team. So, like, everything was going down that right side uh, for really no apparent reason to me. And then it was weird because, like, Sterling had a better second half than Mudrik did. But I don't know why that was. I don't know why they started to, if it was Maresca's halftime talk or what, like, hey, we need to utilize both sides, and then they did. But he was very much a ghost out there, and like we've seen with him in the past, the times he gets on the ball, he looks good. It just that we didn't utilize him enough. So I don't know. I think we do need to get creative on how to use him because it's not just play long balls and let them run. That doesn't work. But I thought that the match against Celtic was primed for that, where they were up higher. We did need more like release valve outlets, and I thought he would have been really good for that. And it wasn't found. It wasn't worked.
And it's another one where I wonder, would Enzo or Caicedo, help the situation there? Um, and it's nothing against them. Obviously, they were out with their country, right? It's you got to give them a break at some point. So I'm not trying to rip those two or rip Mudrik here, but he didn't really have anybody to distribute the ball to. And our center backs are not the greatest at distributing. Thiago Silva was the best at that. I'm trying to think who else was out there that could have done it. Carney's more of a take you on guy. We still don't know what to expect out of Lavia. So where does it come from? I think it had to.
On that side. Then otherwise,
Yeah, yeah. Maybe Fofana, I guess. But at that point, it has to come from Bobby Sanchez, and so you're expecting him to be an expert distributor, which is what we've heard all preseason, is that Bobby needs to be the distributor. I will say, before we get into Bobby Sanchez and his distributing, his recognition, I spent a lot of time watching him on the pitch because the first half we had, the Chelsea supporters were behind the goal Celtic was attacking. So Bobby was right in front of us there. Spent a lot of time watching him. His ability to read the game coming at him is fantastic. His anticipation, fantastic. His reflexes are spot on. Big fan of all of them. He kept this game from being like 7-1. but his distribution, Jesus Christ. And this is, this is what we're being told all preseason is that he's a better distributor of the ball. He's better on his feet than Petrovic, and so he's gonna go into the season as the number one. God, talk about skying balls to the wingers. Kicked it straight out of bounds 3 or 4 times. Holy shit. So, with that being said, because I know you and God, I'm glad Matt's not on. You and Matt are not big Bobby Sanchez fans. Where does Philip Jorgensen fit in the rest of this preseason tour? He's due to take his medical. I think he took his medical today or it's tomorrow. But then he's joining the team in the United States for the Atlanta match. How much of a leash do you give Bobby Sanchez? Where does Jorgensen fit in?
I mean, I don't have much of a leash at all for Sanchez. I ran out of leash last year for Sanchez, which is why I applauded Petrovic coming in and doing what I thought was a better job. Has his faults as well. Like, I'm not saying he's perfect and the perfect number one and all that stuff. I think for what you get with Sanchez, there's just a lot of downside as well. And he's not a distributor, and he made me very scared when he got further and further out, like later in that Celtic match. And he made one mistake that could have been capitalized on. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, that's the Arsenal goal. That's the 2-2 Arsenal draw that we had. The 2 points that I'm crediting to Bobby Sanchez for throwing, like, game right there. Just situations like that where goalies shouldn't be costing us points like that. In those situations, they can definitely ruin matches for you with missed save opportunities, but definitely not build up play like that. So I don't have much of a leash for him. I think he's kind of our by default number one, just because I think Petrovic is out. I think he's going to leave before the window's over. So I think he's gone. And then who else is there until Jorgensen kind of steps in? So I think we're in a very similar situation as we were last year. It's going to be, well, one on the training pitch and then put into play in reality. And if someone screws up, you've got someone looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And Jorgensen isn't exactly uh, a seasoned keeper either. He's 22 years old. Now we've got him on a 7-year contract. And I understand, yes, started at Villarreal and all that, but I mean that's kind of the equivalent of starting at Brighton, right? For Sanchez. Certainly, I think this is the death warrant for Petrovic. I think he is being used as a pure profit kind of thing. Buy him on the cheap, plays well for an extended stretch last year, sell him for profit.
Yep.
Which is it is what it is, right? He wasn't here long enough for me to necessarily grow an attachment to him. There was somebody in the stands. I just keep going off on tangents, man. It has been a while since we tweeted or since we potted. There was somebody in the stands from the Iowa Blues asking me about Gaga Slonina, where he went. My understanding is that he's being loaned out again this year. He's 19 this year. Played in a relegation scrap in Belgium. From what I've heard, played pretty well there. But there's a big step between the bottom of the table in Belgium and the Premier League. I give him another 2-3 years before he comes back into the fold. But Jorgensen apparently is really good with his feet. Going back to this conversation, I really wish that we weren't focusing on how good a goalie is with their feet. Just using Bobby Sanchez as an example, he's a great shot stopper. Let him do his thing there and boot the ball long. Let Nico Jackson, let Marc Guiu, let Mihailo Mudryk run onto a ball, but let somebody knock it down. Play the ball long. Clear the ball out of our third. Fuck playing it out of the back. Like I'm done with that now. I saw Three goals? Yeah, three goals scored, trying to play it out of the back and just confusion balls all over the place. Sanchez, I give until, God, we have a tough stretch start, but till the end of September. If he's struggling, it's Jorgensen time. It's time to bring in the Dane.
See, again, like I have a similar mentality, but almost in the exact different side as you. I wish we would just play short out of the back. I don't want I don't want Sanchez to try to like find wingers on a drop kick ball on a line or on a rope where he skies it out of bounds. I don't need that. I don't need Sanchez to start my breaks. Like I just need Sanchez to not screw up and turn the ball over. Like he he gets himself into these situations where he if we can just play out and then progress, like obviously there were times last year where like a body shield would play a ball back to him kind of in no man's land and like scramble ball, right? And that was bad. He's not the best at that. And I don't love that, but that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like save after save. Like I don't need him to start the break. I don't need him to be Allison. He's not Allison. He doesn't have those skills. I would rather him drop the ball and play it to Levi Colwell and like let Levi do his thing than him try to make something that's not, and then we turn the ball over. Like just calm down and don't screw up. Still just be a shot stopper. So I'm on the same page with you. Just protect our goal, but you don't need to do anything else. Like just stop. Just be done.
Now, I got to ask the question. I know it's out of the realm of possibility. Well, it's not. Now I think about it with Clear Lake owning this club. But we've seen that Ederson is available from City. City wants 60 mil for him. The Saudi league was kind of lowballing, but City was okay with him going because they have Ortega in the wings. Would you drop 60 mil on Ederson and just clean house in the goalkeeper room?
How old is he? He's
He's
pretty young, isn't
31.
he? Is he 31? I think it kind of depends on the contract you can get for him. But like, look, if you told me that we could use money to solve our goalie problems for the next 7 years, do you think I'd be a happy guy? Yeah, I'd be a happy guy. Uh, it's well documented how much I miss our long-standing legendary goalies that we've had, and it's been a revolving door issue for us for a while now. So it sucks. Like Kepa was supposed to be that guy, and Kepa's not going to be that guy. Like it sucks that we missed out on Allison. That's why we got Kepa. That's why we dropped as much money on Kepa that we did. So it seems like we haven't gotten our guy for a while. And yeah, it just yeah, I would. Like I'm sick of a lot of like lottery ticket picks for us versus like proven great, proven really good even. We've bought a lot of lottery tickets, and I don't know how many of them are gonna play out for us. Um, if we can sell Sanchez or I don't know, maybe 15, 12 ish, 20 ish. I don't know what we could sell him for. We could sell Petrovic for maybe the same. So now you're getting a number one for a net 40, 35. That sounds fair to me.
So we bought Sanchez for 25 million pounds. Do you think we could sell him for that value?
So I would say slightly less. I'd put it at 20 then.
And that probably, kills amortization and all that. I think that would cancel out. That would be fine. Um, yeah, dude.
So if
I
we
would
sold
take
them
that,
for 20 and then sold Petrovic for 15, that's 35.
and I think that cancels out the two of them right there.
It's 25 net out the door for number one. Like, yeah, I think that's solid. That sounds like good business to me.
Right. And then when Ederson leaves in 4 years, then you bring in Slanina finally.
So I like I'm just to emphasize the point, I'm sick of having 4 20 million pound players, and I want the 180 million pound player, because guess what? We can't play all four at the same time if they're all in the same position. Like we're overloaded with talent, and none of which is like good enough, weirdly.
Yeah, and one thing that was really tough to watch, I will say, is watching Kasper Schmeichel play with Celtic. He's a guy that Leicester let his contract run out, and no one wanted him. He played like Kasper Schmeichel of old against Chelsea. That was tough to watch. That's a guy that I wanted in this club when he was available. But it is what it is. All right. So the last thing I want to touch on before I give some props for the weekend is kind of the elephant in the room. I will say talk has kind of died down, but we'll see, because this player is rejoining the squad this week. I saw his Instagram that he is on his way to meet the team. That's Enzo Fernandez, of course, filming the Argentinian team, singing that not a good adjective for it, but the song about French players. I can definitely see why it causes some problems. I finally translated, Google translated what it meant, and man, yeah, I can see where that would cause an issue, especially when you have so many French players of African descent in the Chelsea squad. So what's done is done for Enzo, right? And he hasn't been with the squad, so we haven't had to deal with it. He's joining this week. What's the best case? What's the worst case? What do you think happens with Enzo Fernandez?
I mean, my best case can't happen because it didn't happen, which is like the unfollowing of Instagram stuff. That's petty to me. That's high school stuff to me. Like, don't do that. Keep it offline. If you're gonna have a discussion about this, keep it offline. I think it could have very easily been solved with a, hey, bro, that's not cool, right? Like, we've all played on teams before. Stuff happens, and if you pull someone aside and say, like, yo, that's not right, man. That's what you did isn't cool. What you did isn't right. Like, you got to fess up and you got to own up to this. That solves like 98% of issues, because most times people don't do things with the intent to offend, the intent to piss people off, the intent to drive stakes through teams. I'm sure he got caught up in the moment, right? The Copa America champion team celebrating. It sounds like people celebrated against them when other teams beat Argentina. So there's some back and forth of like, hey, you guys did this to us, we're gonna do it back to you. Some of that going on, and I get it, right? Like, I understand being a part of a team and getting caught up in team stuff as it happens and as it goes on, even if you don't necessarily agree with it. Best case scenario is people address them and they squash it, and they squash it quick, and they say like, hey, you have to own up to this. He owns up to it, says, I'm sorry, you guys are my brothers, we'll put this beside us and we'll go forward, and the team buys into that. Obviously, worst case scenario is the opposite of it doesn't get addressed. It's the elephant in the room. It causes further problems of division of team. And like you said, we have plenty of French players on this team where people are going to choose sides pretty quickly. We have sort of a South American contingent, and we have a French contingent, and then we've got everywhere else whether it's English or other. So there's going to be some Switzerland people of like, we don't want to choose sides, like we don't want to get in the middle of this, and then there's going to be a good amount of obviously French people and then people against it. So that's worst case scenario, man. And I really hope it doesn't get to that, because anytime you have to choose sides on a team like this, and Enzo being a prominent member, not just from a transfer fee perspective, but from a key to this team doing well perspective. He was one of our better players last year, and he played most of the season with a sports hernia. He has the ability to be one of the great Chelsea players of this generation. So he's obviously like needed and wanted out there. You can't bench a guy like that for something like that. So I sounds like it's died down, like you said. It sounds like it might be going away, but it also doesn't sound like it's been fully addressed and worked through yet.
No, and I agree. The best case scenario I think has passed. Um, there's reports of a rule the FA has about blatant racism or something like that. It's a 6 game ban. I don't know. Like I could see that coming through and the club appealing it. Maybe it goes down to 3, something like that. But it's a young player playing with a national team, and I'm not trying to excuse any kind of racism or anything like that. But I understand in context why it happened. I'm a big history guy. That's my education and all that. And the the Argentinians are not to generalize an entire culture, but not the most welcoming of others. Uh, I've got relatives who are from South America, and South America is very tribal. Um, very not xenophobic, but you know, Peruvians don't like Ecuadorians, and Chileans don't like Argentinians, and they all just kind of don't like each other. And I think we've seen in some of the responses from Argentinian politicians that's very prevalent there. And I don't think there was any necessarily ill will in the song. I don't think they were saying like "fuck you" kind of thing, but um, it's a cultural thing. Uh, yeah, dude. Honestly, Enzo, make a couple phone calls, a couple FaceTimes. First night you get in with the club at the team hotel, go down to the conference room or someone's room or something. Apologize, talk it through, like man to man kind of stuff. Enough of the unfollowing and the back and forth chit chat and the leaks through social media, and just own up to it, guys. I'm sorry. That was in terrible taste. Like I respect you guys and love you guys as teammates, even if he doesn't love his teammates. I appreciate you guys as teammates, and yeah, I'm willing to serve whatever punishment I got, and let's move forward and let's go. At this point in time, that is the best case scenario in my mind. Now, what I can see happening just based off of the unfollowings and all that is, you've got a contingent of the French, we'll say the French group, who doesn't accept any kind of apology, and both sides kind of dig in. And you look at the two main actors in this, it's Wes Fofana and Enzo Fernandez. One, prior British transfer record. The other one, I think, is the second most expensive defender in Premier League history. Money talks, right? Who do you side with as a club there, especially a club where I saw flags all over the place here saying no to racism and racism. At Brothers, where all the supporters group was meeting, every Chelsea flag had that little banner attached to it. I think that goes against Enzo. So if both sides dig in, it might be a sale. It might be a sale on unfortunately probably one of our better midfielders. So let's hope this week he gets in, has a little powwow with the team and hashes it out, and we all move on. I know Paul Cannonville, former Chelsea player, has offered to mediate to the club. He's offered to be the middleman there. I hope they take him up on that. Paul's very, very in on social activism and equal rights and all that, and definitely a good dude, and seems to have an in with everybody. So I would love for him to be in on those. But even if not, man, you guys are all grown men. Talk it out.
Look, and as unfortunate as it is, like this can be used as a learning experience for all. Like hey, some of the traditions of old aren't cool anymore, and some of those things that might have been commonplace 5, 10 years ago, they just there's no place for that anymore. So if you get people in the same room and be like I said, I don't think he meant ill will towards it, but when you see how that like makes one of your teammates feel, and then you feel that toward, it takes some of that to like learn, like, oh shit, this isn't okay. I need to be better. I need to not do this anymore. We collectively need to not do this anymore. Like sometimes it takes hurting someone's feelings to realize that you need to shape up. Like it happens, and hopefully we can use this as a learning tool. It just both people need to come at it from the right position. Enzo needs to learn and be willing to learn about his teammates in that manner, and teammates need to be willing to educate without like kind of condemning just straight out and say like this is how you made me feel. So it just be a grown adult, also toddler conversation of if you hurt someone's feelings, yes, then you need to apologize, right?
Well, with that being said, and that coming up in the next probably day or so, we do have four preseason matches left, three in the U.S. and then one back at Stamford Bridge. What are we expecting for the remainder of preseason? What are you looking forward to? Is it the wins and losses? Is it play style? What do you want to see?
I want to see the team start to get crisper as a unit. I was disappointed with the polish that we have, knowing that it wasn't going to be Premier League polish with the people that were out there, but the people that were out there have been kind of training together, so I expected more synergy between them. And then I look for individual performances, and then I look for just sort of overall how are we creating and how are we defending. Um, it's interesting how there are parts of both matches where it felt like we were great, but like those parts were just like snippets and not kind of consistent dominance. So yeah, I'm just kind of checking in with what I see there. The wins and losses obviously don't matter. We've won matches in preseason that doesn't translate to wins in the Premier League, and vice versa has been true. So it's not necessarily the indicator for how your season's going to go, but I think most people would take a positive preseason than a negative one just to see where you're at, because I do think it is a good indicator of where you are at um, as a full squad. So I'm mid of what my expectations are. I don't expect us to win much, but I hope we can compete. I hope we can score some goals because I haven't seen a ton of that yet. I expected more goals from the Wrexham match, and I expected to score more than a 88th minute penalty or whatever it was against Celtic. So goals from open play. The one point I disagreed with you on that you mentioned really early on was service in the box against the Celtic match. We had 9 corners, and most of them had good service on them. Like the fact that we couldn't score on any of them was very disappointing because Reece James put a lot of really good balls into the box. He may not have found Tosin, which I think was your point, but uh, we had a lot of like really good, not Mason Mount type corners, like actually good corners that Reece James put in the box and didn't amount to anything. So that was quite disappointing.
I'll give you that. That's a great point. The when Tosin was in is when the corners were shit. Reece James was subbed off about halfway through that, and Noni Madueke put in a Mason Mount corner, and it pissed me the fuck off. So I would like to see a couple wins. Um, Again, glad Matt's not here because I'm about to drop the V word. Uh, I want vibes. I want vibes going into the season. Again, we have a tough start to the season here. And just building a little momentum, a little good feeling. Because right now, there's already people calling for Enzo to be sacked. Enzo Maresca. Uh, like, dude, he's had 2.5 weeks with this team. Chill the fuck out. Um, yeah, wins would be nice. I want to see what exactly a starting 11 looks like for Maresca. We've got a lot of players coming back this week, and obviously you got to build them up over the next couple weeks. So, you know, by I would say the last match of the U.S. tour before we go back for the last friendly at the Bridge, I would like to see the starters going 60 minutes, 65 minutes, just so I can see what they all look like in this system. I'd like to see Kukure on the left. Honestly, I would like to see center back pairing of Tosin and Disasi. Reece James on the right. I'd like to see Caicedo and Enzo in the mid, Palmer on the right, Mudryk on the left, and then give Nico Jackson some minutes. He's very much a confidence player. Give him some minutes to score some goals. Even if you got to throw him in at the end of the match where he's playing against a bunch of scrubs, get him in there. Let him score his hat trick and celebrate all over the other team for no fucking reason. Give me those vibes. So, rest of the preseason, success for me is positive vibes. Us not shitting on the team, on any given Sunday. Us feeling good after some of these friendlies.
Just the last friendly is against Madrid. So,
cool.
In the US. And then we play Inter, it looks like the 11th. And I'm guessing that's the one that's back home. But I mean, Club America, Man City, and Real Madrid are our next three friendlies. And then Inter's our fourth. That's a tough schedule, which I like because I like playing tougher opponents in preseason, figuring out what's going to work and what's not, and playing against bigger clubs. I'm all for the Wrexham stuff, but it feels like a no-win situation for us. If we win 6-0, it's expected. That's what you should do, which is what we did last year. I think 5-0. Anything else is a failure against a club like Wrexham. So we failed. Like drawing against Wrexham, I guarantee Rob and Ryan were more happy than Paul Winstanley and Todd Bowley were.
Yeah, agreed. And I do just want to point out the last time that we faced Club America in a preseason, we finished in the bottom half of the table. It was 2 years ago.
Sick.
Well,
on that lovely note.
Well, no, I got some positive vibes before we close out here. I got some positive. So as has been mentioned, I was at the game on Saturday in South Bend. I'd never been to South Bend before. Traveled through it all the time for work. Never been on Notre Dame's campus. I will say, and this might be a little bit of my Notre Dame hate coming out, but their stadium is pretty shitty. Not a fan. If you're gonna put it in a college stadium, pick a more updated one, I would say. The location was weird. Put it in a major city. It might be a Celtic fighting Irish thing. But no, I wasn't thrilled with the venue. But I do want to make this plug here to go out and sign up for your Chelsea in America membership. Being a part of the organization is just a fantastic opportunity. Even if you don't necessarily leave your local area, for example, us or myself, being in Milwaukee, if I never left Milwaukee, even going to the Highbury and drinking and watching games with the Milwaukee Blues has been extraordinary. I've made so many friends. Shout out to Scott, Hector, and Nick, who we've all had on the pod. Go back and listen to our old pods. They've been great. But Parker, I know you've traveled to quite a few sites to meet with other Blues. I got the chance to go and hang out with the Kansas City Blues this year. At this match, I got to talk with people from Iowa, people from the Las Vegas Blues, people from the Ohio Blues, people from New York, people from all over the place. And being a part of Chelsea in America allowed me to sit in the supporters section, buy those supporter section tickets early on. It's just great to go outside of your immediate bubble and just see how big this Chelsea family is. So Chicago Blues and Circle City Blues did a fantastic job hosting at Brothers before the match. Had Carlo Cudicini come in for a Q&A, had all kinds of raffles and games, drink specials. The whole day was a blast, and I got to give a shout out to Chelsea and America for that. They did a wonderful job. Please, membership is still open. Please go and sign up. And if you are in Milwaukee, please come out and hang out at Highbury with the Milwaukee Blues. You know, Matt and I try to be there as much as possible, but they're a much more important Milwaukee Blues than us too. So make sure to sign up.
Yeah, wonderful plug. I always laugh because I feel like if you're listening to a Chelsea podcast in the preseason, especially, so if you're listening to this right now, you're a diehard fan. Like you're a big fan. You care about the club. You want to know what other people think about the club, and you care what Andy and I say, and our thoughts and our opinions on the club. So it puts you in like the top 1% of people who are willing to support a club because you're willing to listen to us and you're willing to travel to matches and you're willing to go out to the pubs and watch matches in person. Community is really important, especially as people get older. Community becomes even more important. I sold a pinball machine today, and I sold it to a first time buyer, and it was like my honor and privilege to kind of walk him through what owning a machine looks and feels like. And so I walked him through all the menus. I walked him through all of the stuff. I taught him how to fix stuff. I taught him how to do stuff. And then I said, if you ever need anything, like, let me know, because being part of the community, it's kind of your right to do that. And people before me did that for me. And like I said, it's my right and my honor to be able to pass that on to someone else. And it was really cool. I feel like I made a friend today. And it feels like I made someone that might give me a call and be like, "Hey, I'm in town. Like, let's hang out and play pinball." Like stuff like that's cool. And soccer is another way to do that. And so I encourage people to get out of their bubble and travel if you can. Otherwise, support your local chapter because it's a lot of like-minded people who care about the team, love the team, and love to talk about the team. Love to hear your opinions on, hey, what do you think about this guy? Why don't we try this? What have you thought about this kind of a system? Do you think that would work? Playing hypotheticals is kind of a fun way to do it. And we do that all the time, right? We think through sort of the crazy options. I mean, Collins, you threw a hypothetical at me of a new goalie, right? Like something that probably will never happen, but what do you think? Like, you think that would work? It's like Chelsea fans want to talk about stuff like that all the time. And so if you get out and grab a beer, buy someone a beer, do whatever, you have the ability to form some friendships, and it's a pretty cool community. I have on my bingo card to get to my local bar more often during the season this year. I didn't get there anywhere near enough last year, so it's on my to-do list, and it should be on all of your to-do lists as well.
Well, who knows? Maybe we'll have some Denver Blues on the pot this year.
Be nice.
All right. Well, again, first episode of the preseason, working out some kinks. We maybe flirting with a new not a new host. Matt's coming back. Don't worry. A new format. We'll see. We got to talk about that internally. But in the meantime, we'll keep going as we have been. Nice little round tables here, and definitely appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you guys giving us the summer off up until now. Looking forward to talking with you guys every Sunday. Parker is working with Twitch. I will plug that right now. Tentatively, the plan is right now to get us up on Twitch when we're recording. So, check that out. We'll be exploring some other things this year as well. So, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. We're on social media at FlagDownPod. On X, I'm at Comiskey North. Parker's at DJ Parkour. Parker, any closing thoughts?
The first of many in our season 4, man. I did not think we would make it this far. I'm happy that we're still doing this. I'm happy that we can get together and chat about our team. It's always fun to watch with like a different set of eyes where I've got my fan hat on and then I've kind of got my podcast hat on. And I've been running a lot lately. And spoiler alert, but I have been forming pod arguments mid-run. So I've got more time to think through how I can crush you in debates. So get ready for a new me, man.
Super villain origin stories. I love it. All right.
Goddamn right.
All right. On that note, cheers.
Buddy.